All right, so buckle up because today we're diving into a real nightmare. The Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway.
Yeah,
This guy terrorized the Seattle area for years.
absolutely.
Took the lives of at least 49 women.
At least.
He claimed even more.
Right.
For years, he was basically a ghost, just a shadow. And today we're going to try to figure out what was behind that shadow, what made him capable of such awful acts.
It's the question, right? It haunts every case like this. And what's so creepy with Ridgway is that his beginnings seem so normal.
Yeah,
I mean, born in Salt Lake City, grew up in Washington State, seemingly average childhood. But looking back, there were already cracks in that average facade, warning signs.
right.
And hindsight makes them terrifyingly clear.
Yeah, and one thing in particular really just sends chills down my spine.
Oh, yeah.
As a teenager, Ridgway stabbed a 6-year-old boy,
Oh, wow.
left him for dead.
Oh, geez.
Thankfully, the boy survived. But, it makes a wonder, was this like a glimpse, like a window into the monster that he was going to become?
Absolutely. It's horrifying, but it's a crucial piece of the puzzle, right? Suggests those violent tendencies, they were there early on.
Right.
Most teenagers, we've even fathomed such an act.
No.
But for Ridgway, it foreshadowed the darkness to come. The question is why? What was going on in his life to trigger something like that aggression, that young?
It's like you said, deciphering a code, trying to find the missing pieces to explain how someone seemingly ordinary can become capable of this evil.
Right.
So let's fast forward a little bit to his adult life. Ridgway was married 3 times,
Okay.
held a steady job as a truck painter, appeared to be living a normal life.
And that's what's so unsettling, isn't it? Like he was hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
The mask of sanity. It's a chillingly common trait among serial killers.
Right.
They blend in, appear charming, even trustworthy, but all the while concealing the darkest impulses imaginable.
Yeah, it's terrifying to think of it. Like the person next to you at the grocery store, the guy who passes you on the street, could be harboring monstrous secrets.
Yeah.
So let's get to the heart of the darkness here. His crimes. So Ridgway preyed on vulnerable women, primarily sex workers, strangled them, and this is where it gets even more disturbing, he would revisit the dumping grounds, interacting with the bodies.
Gosh, it says a lot about his psychology, that compulsion to return to the scene, to engage with his victims even after death, suggests a need for control, like a desire to relive the power, he had during their final moments. Some experts even theorize it's like a twisted form of intimacy
Right.
for individuals who are just profoundly detached from genuine human connection.
That's bone-chilling. It's beyond comprehension. And for years, he was, like we said, a phantom,
Mm-hmm.
just leaving investigators grasping at straws.
Yeah, the Green River Killer case was a nightmare for law enforcement. False leads, dead ends, and that mounting pressure of a community living in fear. And of course, the anguish of the families desperate for answers. It was a race against time, and for a long time, it seemed like time was winning.
But finally a glimmer of hope emerged. DNA evidence.
Right. 2001, thanks to, advancements in DNA technology, a match was made and Ridgway was finally arrested. A pivotal moment, not just for this case, but for forensic science as a whole. Imagine the flood of relief, but also still those lingering questions. How could someone like this operate undetected for so long?
Yeah, it must have been so bittersweet. A victory for justice, but also a stark reminder of the long and painful road it took to get there. Even with his arrest, so many unanswered questions. Pieces of the puzzle still missing.
Precisely. The arrest brought some closure, but it didn't erase the trauma, the fear, the years lost to his reign of terror. And even his confession, while it provided some answers, it left us with chilling insights into the mind of a monster.
So let's talk about that confession. To avoid the death penalty, Ridgway agreed to a plea deal, led investigators to the remains of some victims, and provided details about his crimes. Even some of the police hadn't even connected to him.
Plea deals in cases like this, they always stir debate. On one hand, they can offer closure to families, prevent lengthy and costly trials.
Right?
But on the other hand, they allow individuals who have committed unspeakable acts to avoid the ultimate punishment. It's a moral and ethical tightrope walk.
It's a heavy burden to bear, deciding the fate of a monster like Ridgway. And his crimes left scars that run deep, not just on the families of the victims, but on an entire community. The sense of vulnerability he exposed, the realization that evil can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life, those are wounds that take a long time to heal.
Yeah, it's a haunting truth, isn't it? That ripple effect of these crimes makes you wonder, could any of this have been prevented? Could we have seen the signs, intervened before it was too late?
That question kind of hangs over every case like this, doesn't it? It's easy to look back and play what if, but the truth is, predicting human behavior, especially something as monstrous as this, it's just incredibly complex.
Oh, absolutely. We're dealing with this tangled web of psychological factors, personal histories, even societal influences.
Right.
But, by studying cases like Ridgway's, we can begin to unravel some of those threads, understand the patterns, the risk factors that might point to future violence. It's about recognizing those subtle warning signs before they escalate into tragedy.
You mentioned warning signs. We talked about that chilling incident with the 6-year-old boy.
Right.
What if someone had noticed, had intervened then? I mean, could it have changed his trajectory?
It's impossible to know for sure, but early intervention is it's crucial. If those early signs of aggression and violence had been addressed, maybe things could have been different. Of course, we can't go back in time, but it highlights the importance of, vigilance, being aware of those red flags in children in adolescence.
So it's not just about catching the monster after the fact, but you're saying maybe even trying to prevent the monster from being created in the first place.
Precisely. It's a multi-layered approach. We need to focus on individual intervention, providing resources and support for those who are, struggling with violent tendencies. But we also need to address, the bigger societal issues, the things that contribute to these problems.
Right.
Poverty, drug abuse, lack of access to mental health care, these all play a role.
It's about creating a safety net, isn't it? A community that supports its most vulnerable members so they don't fall through the cracks. That's a powerful concept, tackling the root causes rather than just reacting to the symptoms.
And it requires a shift in perspective.
Instead of just viewing these individuals as monsters, we need to understand them.
Right.
See the human being behind those horrific acts. Now, that doesn't excuse their actions, obviously, but it allows us to approach the problem in a more nuanced and effective way.
You're right. It's about moving beyond just the fear and the horror. It's about looking for answers. It's about looking for solutions. But that doesn't diminish the impact of what these victims and their families went through.
Of course not, no.
What can we learn from their stories?
Well, their stories are a stark reminder of the fertility of life, and the devastating consequences of violence.
Right.
By remembering them, by speaking their names, we keep their memory alive. We ensure that their suffering wasn't in vain. And we also learn to recognize the warning signs, to advocate for change, to create a world where these tragedies are less likely to occur.
Yeah, their stories are almost a call to action, a plea for understanding and prevention. It's heavy stuff, but it's a conversation we need to have.
We do. It makes you wonder, are there other cases out there, unsolved crimes that might be linked to Ridgway? Are there more families out there waiting for answers?
It's a chilling thought, but unfortunately it's a reality. There are countless unsolved cases, cold trails that may never be fully resolved. And for those families, the pain and the uncertainty are a heavy burden to bear.
That's a sobering thought. But, with advancements in technology like the DNA analysis that ultimately caught Ridgway, there's hope. Hope that some of those cold cases might one day see the light of justice.
Absolutely. Technology is a powerful tool in the fight against crime. It gives us a fighting chance to bring closure to families, to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions, even years, even decades like it.
Yeah, it's like piecing together a shattered puzzle, one fragment at a time. And each piece brings us closer to the truth, to understanding that dark side of human nature, finding ways to protect ourselves from it.
And sometimes those pieces, they lead us to unexpected places, revealing connections we never anticipated. In Ridgway's case, there's speculation that he might be linked to other unsolved murders, potentially expanding his web of terror even further.
That's a terrifying thought. The possibility that his crimes were even more extensive than we initially believed. What does that say about the nature of evil? Is it something that could be contained, or is it something that just lurks in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to emerge?
It's a question that has, haunted philosophers and criminologists for centuries. And the truth is, there are no easy answers.
Right.
We can study the psychology of these individuals, analyze their motives, try to understand the societal factors that contribute to their actions. But ultimately, that darkness within the human heart, it remains a mystery.
It's a mystery that we're drawn to, even as it terrifies us. We want to understand these monsters among us, to dissect their minds, to find a way to protect ourselves from their darkness. But perhaps the most unsettling truth is that the line between good and evil is often blurrier than we'd like to believe.
That's a powerful point, and it brings us back to the question we started with. What makes a person capable of such horrific acts? Is it nature, nurture, Or some combination of both? And what can we do to prevent these tragedies from happening in the future?
These are questions that demand our attention, our introspection, and our collective effort to create a safer, more compassionate world. By exploring those darkest corners of the human psyche, we gain a better understanding of ourselves and this complex world we inhabit.
Exactly. By confronting the darkness, we can strive to bring more light into the world.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought to think that there are probably more cases like Ridgway's out there, more shadows waiting to be, exposed. But just us having this conversation, trying to understand these awful acts, I think it's a sign that we haven't given up hope.
Absolutely. And for those who want to delve deeper into this chilling world, there's a wealth of information out there. Books, documentaries, articles. I mean, you can really get lost in the details of these cases, trying to unravel those twisted threads that lead to such darkness.
It's a rabbit hole for sure. Sometimes you got to go down the rabbit hole to really, really understand what's lurking down there. And who knows? Maybe by studying these cases, we can learn something. Find some clue that helps prevent future tragedies.
Knowledge is power, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it forces us to confront the most disturbing aspects of human nature. The more we understand about the forces that drive people to commit these acts, the better equipped we are to combat them.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the mind of the Green River Killer, we're left with this lingering sense of unease, a chill that kind of settles deep in your bones. But we're also left with a renewed determination to shine a light into the darkness, to understand, to prevent, and to never forget the victims whose lives were tragically cut short.
It's a reminder that evil exists, that it can wear a friendly face, that it can hide in plain sight. But it's also a reminder that we have the power to fight back, to seek justice, to protect the vulnerable, to strive for a world where these horrors are no longer a reality.
It's a fight that requires, courage, compassion, and an unwavering belief in the power of humanity to overcome even the darkest of shadows. And it starts with conversations like this, with a willingness to face those uncomfortable truths, to seek answers, in the face of unimaginable horrors.
Because the truth, as unsettling as it can be, is the only path to understanding, to healing, and ultimately to prevention.
That's a powerful message to leave our listeners with. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of darkness. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop seeking the light. 69.